Raskar. It's so wonderful to see you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can think about a new innovative path for Kumbh Mela. We have been part of this journey for almost 12 years now here in Nasik. I'm from Nasik Roads. I'm a local boy. I grew up here, went to high school here. And what we're talking about is this notion of a city stack. You can call it a district stack or a state stack. But the idea really is that MIT Kumbhathon could be one of the first initiative, a first sandbox where we can try out some of the high-stakes scenarios in the city stack. So thank you, Dr. Gedam, for previewing this notion of different stacks. I guess I'm too tall for that. To kind of preview various types of open protocols and open stacks that he mentioned, such as Aadhaar and UPI and ONDC and so on, I think the city stack is a natural next evolution. But before we talk about the city, all these confusing concepts that you're hearing about data and AI and stack and so on, maybe we should just invoke God. We are right here in Nasik, and talk about the God AI, the ultimate problem we should be solving. So there's a festival in Nevada called the Burning Man, which is like the Kumbh of America. It's about 70,000 people show up. It's a very interesting festival. And at the festival, there's a booth that says, talk to God. Okay? And you can pick up the phone, like an old landline style phone, and you can hear the voice of God and ask questions on the other side. If you had gone a few years ago and but by the way, how many people pick up the phone and try to talk to God here? Because of curiosity or because you have questions? And thank you, Samir. I know you would. We all need some help. And if you had done that a few years ago at the Burning Man, which is an amazing festival, the voice of God on the other side in the US had an Indian accent. And that was me. So for many days, sitting about 200 meters away from this phone booth, hidden and kind of pretending to be God, I talked to fellow Americans, about their challenges, their problems, and they were opening up, I'm within a matter of seconds. And that was, as a human being, it really moved because I haven't sat through so many difficult conversations, of individuals, together. And but as a scientist, what surprised me is why are people willing to share their secrets right away to an unknown, and also believe that I, as this virtual God, has the power to do something about it. And what I realized, and it's kind of natural for us growing up here in India, is that we have this respect for something that's above us, something beyond us. And we have this feeling that there's something out there that is an honest, impartial broker, which is omnipresent and omnipotent. And this being, this God, as whatever form you want to use to describe that concept, can actually go and help every one of us. So this notion of an impartial, honest broker is a critical one. And so when I came back to MIT, I said, that's what I should be building. I should be building a newfangled AI, which is an honest, impartial broker, right? And that's the God AI. So there are already other gods that exist in our world that behave like honest, impartial brokers. So how many people here are using Google Maps, right? Almost everybody. And the reason why it works is we willingly give away our GPS location to Google. Google calculates the traffic density, and then in return gives us turn-by-turn navigation. So Google is kind of playing the God of traffic. It can tell us which way to go. If they want to do good things, that's what they do. But it's very impartial because it doesn't matter how rich I am or which car I have. Everybody gets the same experience. If it shows red on a traffic area, it's usually right. So it's impartial and so on. It's a great broker because if I'm in a city trying to navigate from point A to point B, it's a great broker because it's telling everybody what they should do to avoid the traffic and get from point A to point B. This is great. So for every journey in our life, our health journey, our finance journey, our energy journey, we need a God of those journeys. The problem, of course, is in Kumbh Mela, all these problems are multiplied, by 10x or 100x. And this is a slide I took from our MIT scientist, Shantanu Bhattacharya, where it said on one side, we can think about, all the amazing activities that go on at Kumbh, but on the right side, it has all the secondary impacts on thinking about the different kind of stack that Dr. Gedam was talking about. And as we have said before, our goal is to see how the 2027 Kumbh Mela can be better at the experience level than going to Olympics. right? And exploit about $2 billion of economic activity. There's a recent economic study that shows that the 2019 Kumbh in Prayagraj created about $10 billion of economic activity, although the investment by the government was less than $1 billion. It created about 600,000 jobs. Just think about that. Approximately, I would say the Nasik Kumbh is about 1/3 of the Prayagraj Kumbh, broadly speaking. But on the other hand, as Dr. Gedam said, it happens in the middle of a city. So there's a huge opportunity to tap into this multi-billion-dollar opportunity, and that's where many startups like you and others will be playing a role. And again, a lot of our questions will be about, how do we get access to the data, how do we get this experience layer, and so on. And really, we can create Maharashtra, as a hub for cloud technology. So let's think about a few scenarios, right? What's the difference between AI and agentic AI and decentralized AI? The interesting thing is, in the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to have an agent for everything, right? It's more than using something like ChatGPT and so on. So every one of us will have an agent, an AI agent running on your smartphone or some other form, and that agent will be negotiating on our behalf. So for example, if I have an argument with my daughter, we won't actually have an argument. My agent will talk to her agent, and they'll duke it out and then figure out and convince her that she should do her homework before she asks for an ice cream, right? So we're going to live in that world very soon. Our agents will be, doing the negotiation and transactions on our behalf. But let's think about, what matters for Kumbh Mela. So imagine 2 years from now, 2.5 years from now, there's a pilgrim in Bihar. We have Sita Devi. Sita Devi picks up the phone in Patna. She says, "मैं जा रही हूँ नासिक कुंभ मेला के लिए, मैं क्या करूँ?" And the agent, which is multiple agents, not just one, behind the scenes is, of course, language is not an issue. You can speak in any language you want with this AI agent. It goes and figures out which train she should get on, looks at her own health records, uploads it into the health stack that Dr. Gedam talked about, figures out whether there are enough hospitals and clinics because she's pre-diabetic, also figures out what rickshaw she should take from the Nasik Road train station, where she should live. There's a profile that's already built on her phone that says she can afford 100 rupees a night or 500 rupees a night to do that, and so on. So that's the experience for Sita Devi. But what's happening also on the infrastructure side is you're getting information. It's like, looks like there are more people coming from Patna than Kochi, so more trains should be released to come from that part of the world. Also looks like the people who are going to be pre-diabetic and certain types of medications should be stocked, and so on. So all these things are being taken care of behind the scenes. And so for health officials who have to make very important decisions about epidemics, as we heard, Kumbh Mela takes place during the monsoon season. It's a major concern. What kind of medicines they should stock? All these things are happening behind the scenes. If you're a policymaker and you have to make decisions on, crores and crores of rupees, right now this is being done. I was just sitting next to, our commissioner, Ms. Khatri, and she was telling me about the problem of garbage bins and how they could be tracked and how that can become a first alert system as a proxy for what else is happening in that region. And if you're a rickshaw driver, this morning we were talking to Mr. Collector about how transportation is a problem because during Kumbh Mela, traditionally, there is a ring of 5 kilometers where no vehicles are allowed. So if you arrive at Nasik Road train station, all you can do is walk all the way from the train station to the ghat, which is a good 7-8 kilometers. And this is good for crowd control, so good for security, but it's bad in 2 different ways. One is for the elderly Sita Devi, it's a terrible experience to have to walk all the way. But more importantly, for all the entrepreneurs, all the businesses in the city who could provide her services, unable to tap into it. The rickshaw union, the taxi union, people would sell her bhel along the way, whatever it is, are missing out on all these opportunities. So there are ways we can make this, multi-agent and solve these multiple constraints at the same time with this decentralized AI. So again, these are terms you may not be familiar with, but just like ChatGPT was an unknown term just 2 years ago, and now we just take it for granted. In fact, some people are already bored with it. So today's AI it's like ChatGPT, it's like Notebook LLM, it's like Gemini, where you have a single AI, you interface with it, there's some information on it, and you get information back. The next level is this notion of agentic AI. There are multiple agents that are talking to each other. So if you're a company and you are trying to hire a candidate, then you don't have to actually have an HR person to interview the candidates. They just do an interview with an agent. You just talk to him. Mera naam ye hai, main ye karta hu. The agent asks you questions and so on. But then also There are other agents. There could be, a salary agent. There could be a project management agent within the company that are all coordinating with each other, right? And this is happening very, kind of in a very seamless manner. And Mr. Raj Simhan is here. He'll be talking a little bit later today about this notion of agent AI that can help startups also think about how they should ideate, how they should validate, how they should scale their businesses. So agent AI is great when everything is within one trusted network, okay? But the next level is decentralized AI. Yesterday I was talking to Dr. Praveen Gedam, and he told me this very interesting case of a village or a town has 4 toilets built right next to each other because different departments didn't coordinate their efforts. Is that correct? And that's an example where you have many entities who may or may not are disconnected. And as you saw in the video earlier, they could be disinterested, but very commonly they are also distrusting. So when you have many entities that would like to do something together, but they're disconnected, disinterested, and distrusting, how can they still collaborate with each other and do something better? The way it's done today is through, legal documents or business development documents, some contracts, negotiations, and so on. That's very inefficient. But very soon, you'll be able to take all these agents that talk to each other, even if they're not in a single system. One could be an insurance company, one could be a healthcare company, one could be a pharma company, one could be, the clinic, and so on. They can all talk to each other. But the one that comes next to that is Nanda, which is the network agents that achieve this decentralized AI. And as you know, Nanda is, goddess Durga. So, it's even better than God AI. And also very conveniently is also the name of my sister who's sitting here in the front row. Her name is Nanda. And so, the Nanda architecture is where the world is moving. We won't get there today, but hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years, again, you might think this is going to happen very slowly, but those of us remember how quickly things like ChatGPT and so on have entered our life. This will all happen in the next 2 to 5 years. And hopefully Kumbh Mela is the first place where we're going to see agentic AI, decentralized AI, but also the Nanda framework. So those of you startups thinking about creating different ventures that solve this experience layer, don't just think like AI. Think about agents that are talking to different entities, and we'll be here helping you thinking through the different stack, the city stack that allows you to tap into that. But the next level after that is don't assume that you have APIs that are naturally available. There may be some incentive engineering you have to do so that you have access to that thing. So let's say you're a drone company. A natural way to think about an AI startup would be, hey, I have a drone company, I'm going to fly the drone, I'm going to analyze the video stream, and I'll sell the information on that. But an agentic AI would be, hey, I have a drone, but I'm also going to interact with other agents that are not necessarily drone, right? Could be a GIS agent, there could be a population agent, and so on. They all talk to each other. But a decentralized AI of a drone company would be saying, hey, I'm going to actually take bids because it's incentive engineering, and there's a data market, there's a wisdom market. I'm going to see who wants my feed. So maybe the government wants the feed for security. Maybe an advertising company wants to know what kind of people are going somewhere else. There's somebody here who's thinking about city planning. There could be multiple entities that could gain from that drone company's data. And they could be bidding in real time, saying, I'll give you, 10 rupees per minute for your stream if you can also do, crowd counting there. And somebody will say, I'll give you 12 rupees, per minute of your stream if you can also help me solve this particular problem. And all those entities may be distrusting each other, but you as a drone company can tap into decentralized AI and build all this infrastructure. So that's the interesting part about this. And of course, when it comes to network agent of this decentralized AI, is where it could be tapping into, a different drone company that works in Indonesia and see they may have a better model for detecting crowds from video stream. In real time, you can figure that out, right? You can use their APIs and so on. So again, it might sound complicated now, but this will become commonplace in very few months, in very few weeks. So let's make Nasik the first place where we see decentralized AI and Nanda, right? Again, I won't spend too much time about the software stack that we're building collaboratively with all of you. We have a lot of corporate partners here who are also joining us in building this decentralized AI stack. And there are a couple of things that are happening here that are very interesting. I was having a conversation with a very successful CEO here, and when I started talking about this idea, I said, this is too expensive. We don't have the resources for the chips and the foundation model and the cloud architecture. And the good news is that most of the AI is actually moving to the edges. It'll be running on your PC, it'll be running on your phone. So things that today require OpenAI and Google and Gemini to run with multiple $1 billion of investment will run on your smartphone. in the next 2 to 3 years. So things are moving to the edge very, very quickly. And the other, as I said, there'll be billions of agents. And because there are billions of agents, today, when you're on the internet, we heard about SMTP earlier, if you send an email from, say, here to Japan, there are many nodes in between that have to figure out, like, oh, the email that's going from Ramesh, to Takada-san in Tokyo has to go through all these intermediate servers to reach there. And that's a very complicated operation. But imagine the same agent. If it's not a conversation between two machines to send an email, but it's a conversation between multiple agents to provide a service, like the one for the drone company I talked about. So how are all these 8 or 10 billion agents going to talk to each other in near real time, right? So this is creating a massive decentralization, of this sector, and we have to figure out how do we use that for socially impactful sectors. So right now we have kind of a disorganized interaction that goes on between different entities. The rickshaw company doesn't talk to the hospitals don't talk to insurance. All these things are disorganized. We can either go to a highly centralized organization and expect the models that are used in some of the Asian countries, or we can go to a self-organized, decentralized, but highly orchestrated framework. And some of the protocols that Dr. Gedam talked about, like ONDC and so on, are moving in the top right, which is decentralized, but highly orchestrated. And that's the exciting world we live in. The question we heard earlier about, do we have access to the GIS data, is actually a wrong question, because what we should be doing is saying, hey, whichever entity, in this case the government, which has access to satellite data, GIS data, shouldn't be giving you access to the raw data, but should be selling you the insights from the data. So that any security concerns, any other privacy concerns are completely taken care of. And we live in a world where the transactions are happening with insights, transactions are not happening with raw data, right? And it's a very important sentence to remember. We'll be living in a wisdom economy, not a data economy. So when we're exchanging wisdoms, a lot of the things can take place without asking for raw data. Just earlier we were talking about CCTVs that will be around, in Kumbh Mela, in cities in general, and it's impossible for a city to give you raw access to, the feed from the CCTV cameras, because of security and so on. But it will be straightforward if some of you can solve a problem where on premises, the insights from every image, every video frame is actually stored, and then any other external startup can just access to the specific wisdom, like people count, or the roads clean, or even fashion index, and so on, right? So I'm going to skip over some of the slides in the interest of time. But the problem of creating this God AI is, how do you look at all the data? How do you run massive models and so on? And the reality without, God's eye view, this God AI, is that, because of privacy, because of cost, because of creating better UX, it's simply not possible to develop such a God AI. So that's why we need global orchestration of decentralized AI. And that's what we mean by God AI, right? It's not a religious connotation to God AI. So this is really, interesting time to be thinking about decentralized AI. The benefits of decentralization is that we will have innovation at the edges. We heard about how Prayagraj is managed very top down because it's a fresh new pop-up city. I would argue that Nasik is a better Kumbh for innovation. I just heard earlier from you, it's like the Mecca of innovation. We should be calling it the Kumbh of innovation, right? It's the Kumbh of innovation. And we really have an opportunity to think in a decentralized way because it's not happening in a top-down manner. It has to coexist, and we have to co-create with other innovations that are taking place in the city. And Dr. Bhanu likes to call it kind of the dual-purpose technologies that are developed not just for Kumbh Mela, but also good for the cities in general. So this is a very exciting time to think about that. And because of the plurality, because multiple players are playing a role in how AI is developed, it'll automatically be responsible innovation, as opposed to one company like OpenAI or Google deciding what it means to deploy AI. So I think the most important message here is that let's not be consumers of AI, let's be the creators of AI, right? And decentralization allows you to be in that creation economy, not just the consumption economy. So to summarize, there are the trends in AI. One is, AI will move to the edges, to your PCs, to your IoT, and so on. We're going to see this Nanda, we're going to see this network agents for decentralized AI. We can use AI across data silos. You don't need to centralize all the data in one place. We'll see dimensional AI, which is not just screen AI, that you have a chatbot or summarization tool, but it's talking to the garbage bins, it's talking to CCTV cameras, it's in the physical world, the real world sector, and it's discoverable AI. When Sita Devi talks from Bihar about how to interface with Kumbh Mela, all the resources, all the services, orchestrate and create an experience for her, rather than she having to go and figure out which train she should take and which rickshaw she should take and where she should stay and so on. All the things automatically come and create a discoverable AI for her. So that's the vision of smart citizens and smart cities. And the city stack are going to have multiple aspects. Again, city doesn't mean just in an urban environment. It could be districts and states. There are many, many problems you have to solve in the decentralized AI stack. There's a historical context. We have done it well. We want everybody to participate. Of course, the government entities, academic researchers, innovators, corporate partners, foundations, and governments. And we have a whole website, mitkumbh.org, that talks about how we're doing at MIT, and also we're collaborating with Kumbhathon here. So when I saw this booth, it said, talk to God, right? But as we know, in our culture, we don't have one God, but we have, 33 crore. We have 330 million gods, right? And so we have already understood the decentralization of gods as well. So I think the booth at Burning Man should really say, talk to gods, plural, not talk to God. And that's how we're going to achieve decentralization. Thank you. One or two questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to have only 2 questions.
Go ahead, Sunil.
Hi, Ramesh. Nice to see you. So I remember 2015 we were talking about apps, multiple apps, right? Now we are talking about agents.
Right.
So I would like you to put some lights on, since it was about apps and then trust and, lots of security concerns were there. So how, as innovators, we should be thinking about the that particular perspective, like security and that, digital.
That's a very good point. I mean, we 2015, Sunil, we called it the digital first Kumbh Mela. Now we're calling it the AI first Kumbh Mela. But it's like truly a decentralized AI first Kumbh Mela, because things like safety, security, bias, and bad actors, it's very difficult. We saw this during the pandemic. If you have a highly centralized coordination, things may or may not work. But if you have some decentralization, things can stabilize and reach equilibrium very quickly. So is decentralization the solution to everything? It's probably not. Certain things should be centralized, certain things should be decentralized. But I think overall philosophy, if you think things make more decentralized, there'll be more actors, there'll be more participants, and they can have some cross checks and balances on each other to bring the equilibrium faster. But I totally agree with you that, I know there are a few companies here, a few startups here thinking about different aspects of security and privacy and so on. That'll continue to be a very, very important part of this game.
And special thanks for Nanda framework. Thank you. I appreciate it.
My sister is my inspiration.
Hello, good morning, sir. Thank you so much for such an insightful presentation. I think for a lot of us present here, the term decentralized AI is slightly a jargon and something we don't come across every day, right? But as you said, that we could be working with it in the next couple of years or couple of months ahead. Just curious to know, after ChatGPT was launched, there was a lot of buzz about how content managers or content kind of work would be taken away and replaced, right? That maybe did not happen by 100%, certainly did affect the market. So after decentralized AI comes into the picture and it's being deployed at a large scale application level, how would life really look like? Like what kind of jobs would be redundant and what kind of jobs would stay?
Asking the most important question. Everything else is secondary, right? Will we still have jobs? Will we actually have an interesting life beyond this singularity? I think when we talk about agents, it's also important to remember that there's agents. The word agent comes from agency, right? Having some kind of a personal ability to make decisions. So some of the agents will be humans as well. So if you're a content creator, if you're a creative, then you as an individual also is talking to all the agents, saying, "Hey, agent, I'm creating this particular content. What do you think about it?" And you can have multiple agents. You can have one agent that's an expert in your domain. You can have one agent who is actually a critique. You can have one agent who's actually dealing with money. You can have one agent who's comparing with what's out there and scraping internet in real time. And you could have a meeting with this 4 agents and you, and the 5 of you can brainstorm and work very, very fast. Because you could say something, hey, I'm thinking of doing XYZ, and the research agent say, but that's been done 5 times before. And the payment agent's like, but that only gives you like 2 rupees in value and so on. So you can have this real-time conversation, and you can say, hey, listen, I want to write an article about X plus Y, and that's never been done before. I want to write about Kumbh Mela and decentralized AI, never been done before. Let's write one article about that, and they can all brainstorm. There could be a Ramesh agent that you can buy from me, and I'll charge you 10 rupees, a minute for that. Or you can buy another, Dr. Gedam agent, and that could be 1,000 rupees a minute because that's Dr. Gedam. And so you could have all these agents representing us, sometimes for free, sometimes for a commercial value. That'll allow you to do amazing things. If you're running a startup and you really want to solve a scientific problem, you could have a scientific agent. That's rather than traditionally you would do a Google search that'll take forever, or you would go get a PhD like I did, which is questionable now, and or you could use ChatGPT, but it's very incomplete. But now you can say, hey, the top scientist in the world, I want to talk to your agent, in real time. And this is again incentivization. The data market, the financial markets that are happening around that will allow you to negotiate. They'll say, I'm going to charge you 12 rupees. I was like, no, but I got this another guy in Indonesia, he's 11 rupees. What do you think? It's like, no, I'll give you 10 rupees if you do it work for me for a month. This is all happening in a fraction of a millisecond, and you don't even have to worry about it. And you can start working on any project you have. Yeah, I like to say that we'll be working even harder, because there was a time before our generation where if you're the boss, you have a secretary, you don't have to make your own PowerPoint, you don't have to deal with your own email. Now we have to do all of that ourselves. We don't have to take our own photos and deal with our own camera rolls. So I think more technology just makes us even more busy. We might do more things, but my worry is that we'll have to do even more work, because all these agents will create problems for us, and we'll have to call service and yell at people saying this agent kaam nahi kar raha hai. And things like that. There'll be a new HR, by the way. There's going to be a whole new industry in HR of agents, where these agents will misbehave. They may have to be fired. They may have to be promoted. They may have to be demoted. So there'll be like a whole HR agency. There'll be training schools for these agents. This is a digital labor. It's a new form of a labor. But that doesn't mean we'll have less things to do. Unfortunately, we'll have more things to do. Thank you.